when we talk about a food experience, you absolutely want the quality to be on point, but the more innovative you can be with that, the better. So, adding high quality proteins to the menu can make a huge impact on whether that individual decides to go to the movies or decides to choose your theater over some of the competitive experiences that are out there.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Aria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. And in this week's episode, we are joined by Tim Bortner and Beth Fehrenbacher from Hormel Food Service to talk about all of the new expanded menu options going out to a theater near you. We know that the whole F&B, the whole concessions world has gone through a massive evolution. So it's our privilege today to talk to one of those providers in our feature segment. So every exhibitor out there is prepared to know what their options are when it comes to an expanded menu at the concession stand. Before we get there, however, we will be going over a fantastic weekend at the box office where YouTubers reigned once again, and we will preview the upcoming opening weekends of Scary Movie 6 and Masters of the Universe. Joining me once again here on the podcast are the Box Office Network's Romeo Duchesne and Rebecca Pauley from Box Office Pro. Guys, welcome back. All of us, everybody here went to the movies last weekend. We will get into the Backrooms discussion shortly, but Rebecca, you were part of that audience that went to Obsession on week 3. This was your first viewing of the film, and we've been waiting for you to catch this. You're a resident horror geek. What were your thoughts on it?
I want to say I saw it week 2 or in the middle. I didn't wait to week 3. I didn't wait that long, but I definitely was part of the crowd that was catching up after seeing The Buzz. It was a pretty big crowd. I mean, I think I went on a screening of like a Wednesday afternoon maybe, and it was a full auditorium. I think there was a crowd of teens who maybe snuck in, which is why I'm not going to say what theater it was, but it just added to the ambiance. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It definitely we're in a great era for horror, particularly for incel horror and horror about masculinity, toxic masculinity. It was a fun time.
I think that's the charm of this movie. It lends itself to repeat viewings. It lends itself to discovery. And we had another improvement week over week for Obsession in week 3. It's incredible. But before we go into last weekend's figures, I do want to catch up on our reactions on Backrooms, a movie that Rebecca is seeing this week. But Romeo, you and I caught it over opening weekend. I went to go see it at the AMC Prime Auditorium at AMC Empire 25 in Times Square here in New York City. Where did you catch Backrooms?
I went to see Backroom at the Culver Theater in Culver City. If my French accent is allowing me to pronounce this town correctly, I always struggle, Culver City, but it was
solid B+. We're not going to complain. We can't compete with your French words.
I mean, last podcast, I was talking about the communal experience that I was very happy to live again watching Obsession a couple of weeks ago. Well, this communal experience for me went a little bit too far this time, as I almost got into a fight with someone who was talking like he was living in his one apartment, obviously. And then I felt bad a little bit, realizing that most of the audience were way younger than me. So
it's the chicken jockey crowd. It's the chicken jockey generation of moviegoers.
I know, regrettably. I've been having, to be very fair, I've been having a lot of issues as well with, let's say, participatory screenings. I don't mind it when it's a movie like Obsession, when it's supposed to be fun, or even something like the chicken jockey thing. I get it. If that's a vibe, I get it. Backrooms is completely the wrong movie to do it with. It's a movie about vibes. It's a mood piece. There's a lot of silence in it.
I'm thinking back to something like Skinamarink, which kind of indie horror. And it's like the silence or A Quiet Place for that matter.
To me, this phenomenon kind of relate to Paranormal Activity or Blair Witch Project, because at the time those movies really boomed and really attract an audience that probably should have not buy movie tickets for that movie. I don't know, but that's kind of the vibe I had from this movie, which is a great movie, but oh man, shit, I don't know what to
I feel like it's a movie that brought in a lot of infrequent moviegoers, which is great for the industry, but maybe they don't know how to.
Point. Yeah, maybe not the best for.
But also,
I like that take. Yeah.
But this type of audience also is very reactive and can be very punishing or very rewarding. And I think that's what we've seen this weekend with pre-sales around Backroom. It was just amazingly rewarding for A24 to see that much pre-sales. But when the weekend went over, I mean, proportionally, when you compare with Obsession, we had a little bit more woke up in proportion compared to Obsession. So we could have expected even $100 million opening weekend. But starting Saturday, we could have we felt already the pace slowing down. So if you want to talk about next week, I mean, we're going to talk about next week forecast pretty soon. And I don't know, but maybe Backroom will take a big hit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a slide. I think that's a really good point that Romeo brings up. I think the Gen Z crowd, when they latch onto something, they hold on to it, like we've seen with Obsession. But when they're not all the way into it, they'll drop off in droves. But with a movie like Backrooms that got a B- cinema score as opposed to an A- cinema score, so you have to assume that word of mouth was lower by a good margin for Backrooms. When they don't completely subscribe after opening weekend, we tend to see a big drop off. Let's not forget, that's what we saw with Five Nights at Freddy's, the first one, which also opened around $80 million and then had a big hit on week 2.
And the point is seeing it communally. It's not so much the quality of the movie that you're going to see. It's the fact of seeing it, the fact of seeing it with friends. I don't know. Is this going to have like a Mandalorian and Grogu level drop off on week 2? Or what do you think we're talking here?
We'll go into that, but that wouldn't surprise, maybe not as bad, but that wouldn't surprise me if we go into week 2 and see something above 50%.
Since you're bringing Five Nights at Freddy's, Five Nights at Freddy's 2's was my best comparable over the weekend in terms of velocity and hour sales and in terms of woke up. And Five Nights at Freddy's 2, among my other comparable titles, were kind of like the lowest in terms of woke up. So we did a little bit less than Five Nights at Freddy's 2 last weekend in terms of woke up.
Did you like the movie, though? I mean, I found it fascinating. I probably liked it more than Obsession, but personally, I thought Obsession was the more fun movie. It's a funner movie to watch with a crowd. I think Backrooms is a movie that I like more, but I probably wouldn't recommend it. And I probably wouldn't see something like Backrooms with a friend. I'd be a lot quicker to rewatch Obsession than I would to rewatch Backrooms, which I found to be better. I don't know how you felt, Romeo.
I feel the same. I feel like Backroom is definitely a vibe, unlike Obsession, where it's more of a complete movie piece, movie product that the audience is used to. Yeah, watching Backrooms, I had some feeling from probably not the best title, but Grave Encounter, where it's this like little TV crew locking themselves into this psychiatric hospital that's supposed to be haunted. And this is all those like big, tall, bad guys, ghosts that chase them, which is a bit similar to what happened in Backrooms. And I would have hoped Backrooms would have probably pushed that aspect a little bit further. But I can admit that I think they lost also a lot of audience by not saying if it's like a mental prison or if it's a real like space.
No, you see, I didn't have an issue with that. I don't think that moviegoers dropped out of it. I think moviegoers dropped out of a movie where the main character is an empty room. I think that's probably one of the main issues.
What's the running time on this one? Because I think that's a main. That's a
it's not terrible. I think it might be just under 2 hours. I don't have the running time in front of me, but I thought it was very quickly paced. I thought it was a good movie. But the movies that it reminded me of aren't really the sort of things that you build blockbusters around. I think there's a lot of Last Year in Marienbad from Alan Rene in there. Again, Last Year in Marienbad, great film. Backrooms I thought was fine. It was pretty good. But when you're comparing yourself to such a high standard, I dig the ambition and I can understand if it doesn't quite get there. There's a lot of Twin Peaks in this, Rebecca. There's a lot, especially in the whole liminal space thing, the red room aspect of it. This room's yellow, big surprise, right? The fact that you're a prisoner of your own mind. Is the place real or not? It's an in-between place. There's a lot of that Twin Peaks aspect in this. And I vibe with that. I love David Lynch. And this isn't as good as Lynch, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. I went down a rabbit hole of like found footage recently. And there's some that are really great, and the majority of them are garbage. And I know this isn't found footage, but it kind of seems like from the marketing, it feels like that's sort of very, very spatial.
There are found footage elements in the film. There are first-person found footage sequences in the film, which I think work. I think they're well integrated. I mean, the way I would describe this film, it's the way you don't market it, but the way we would talk about it over beers. It's the whole concept for people that aren't into the lore is, what if a place can metastasize the memories of his visitors? And what if those visitors are going through some sort of depression or trauma? What if those memories maybe aren't the best memories and they become, again, metastasized? They become replicated in a carcinogenic way, in a negative way, in which you become, a place becomes a memory of a memory of a memory, of a replica. That's why I bring up a film like Last Year in Marienbad from Alan Rene. Now, of course, Marienbad is a masterpiece. Rene is a master filmmaker that's dealing with liminal spaces and memories and trauma in a much more elevated level. This is a horror movie, right? It's trying to be something else. So I appreciate that aspect to it. The Twin Peaks element of being in an in-between place between reality and a next dimension, I dug that because I absolutely love David Lynch. And do I need to have another David Lynch movie? No, but I like to be reminded of it and I'll have a good time with it.
A Gen Z take on David Lynch.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Gen Z approach, just perfectly fine. Not my cup of tea, but still one I'll drink. The popcorn approach to this movie, where I think Romeo, the movie, might have improved a bit if it takes a different direction, is the Minotaur in a maze. The Backrooms is a maze, and there's a monster in there. We've all heard this legend, right? We all grew up with these stories. There's a Minotaur somewhere. You either have to fight it or avoid it to get out of the maze. That's something we can all relate to. There's a movie that has these vibes, a Canadian horror movie from the 90s called Cube. I don't know if you remember this movie,
Cube. I love
Rebecca.
Cube.
Romeo,
All the sequels are awful, but Cube is a
the
masterpiece.
first one. The
The first
original
sequel's
Cube.
good.
The original Cube gets the Minotaur in a maze element perfectly. Because again, you're in a series of rooms that you don't understand. There's danger. You don't know where danger's going to come from. And you have to escape even though you don't really know where you are. Cube got that aspect down perfectly. And that's the popcorn element where I don't think Backrooms succeeded in retaining that Gen Z crowd. All the other aspects, the thematic aspects, I can dig them. I like them. It's handled in a Gen Z approach. I'm 20 years too old for this movie. Again, I get it. That's fine. There's no problem with the movie when I say that. I can appreciate what it's going for, but I do think in wanting to be a thriller or this escape the Minotaur, fight the Minotaur narrative, it misses that in its final act. It's not as efficiently done as something very similar in Cube, which I think does it perfectly.
I mean, another maze movie, literal and figurative, The Shining, which is one of
There you go.
the
Yeah.
all-time greats. Obviously, Kubrick's on a different
And
level.
there's a lot
from
of that
everyone
too
else.
in there, by the way. A lot of Shining, I think, applies to this movie. A little bit of Eraserhead. There's a dinner sequence that I don't want to spoil that is very evocative of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a lot of Easter eggs there for genre fans, for film fans. This is definitely the work of a cinephile. Yes, I know it's a YouTube filmmaker, but there's a cinephile in there that can
Yeah,
speak
the Letterboxd
the
generation.
cinematic. Yeah, exactly. Letterboxd generation. I think Kane Parsons, the filmmaker, knows how to express himself through this medium. And I thought the movie was very interesting. Again, maybe not as fun as Obsession, but definitely worth my time. Worth a lot of time, I think, for moviegoers. An $81.4 million opening weekend. Guys, that's not too far from what we saw the opening weekend of The Mandalorian and Grogu. I mean, we're talking about something
Ooh, that hurts.
much, much higher than we ever imagined. Romeo, people were calling us crazy when you were saying, hey, I'm seeing pre-sales at 6x Obsession, pre-sales 6 times higher than Obsession.
Well, let's also remind us that I was not that confident to quote that much of a high number because 80, it's Conjuring Last Rites. It's an IP. It's nothing to add. It's a phenomenon that really Gen Z can bring by being either rewarding or either punishing.
The numbers here were incredible. Not only an $81.4 million weekend for Backrooms, which again is just slightly under the 81.6 million of Mandalorian and Grogu last weekend. In second place, Obsession in week 3 increased by 14%. This movie made $27.4 million in its third weekend. To remind our listeners, it made $17.1 million in its opening weekend, which is just, I can't remember the last time we had a movie improve 3 consecutive weekends. And it did so with a potential cannibalizing title like Backrooms. At the end of the day, these movies feed off each other. I think it marks a positive development for Avengers and Dune sharing a release date at the end of the year, because now we have actual data in front of us the box office can sustain two titles going after more or less the same audience.
An element here to look at as well, keep an eye on, what's the window on this going to be? Because Universal said everything 45-day minimum, with the exception of Focus, which Backrooms is. It's not doing specialty numbers. It's doing, obviously, much better, more mainstream numbers. And I'm curious to see, I hope they keep it in theaters exclusively for a good long while. I feel like they understand the situation. I feel like they probably will, but something to keep an eye on.
In week 3, Obsession outperformed week 2 of a Star Wars movie. Like, that's insane. Like, I don't think any of us could have possibly predicted it. But if we just extrapolate further and go deeper into the schedule, and we look at the post-Memorial Day weekend performance was last year. And if you remember, last year we had the best Memorial Day weekend of all time on record with the opening of Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. So we had a record opening weekend, a record holiday weekend over Memorial Day weekend for those two big IP movies. What was week 2 like for Lilo and Stitch and for Mission Impossible Final Reckoning? Well, let me give you those week 2 numbers for those titles. Lilo and Stitch made $61.8 million in week 2, while Mission Impossible made $27.2 million in week 2. That means that combined, opening weekend of Backrooms and week 3 of Obsession made more money than the week 2 of the best Memorial Day weekend 1-2 combo of all time. So that goes to show that these are real numbers behind this trend of younger audiences clamoring for original content. Now, I want to be very careful because there's a lot of headlines out there saying that the IP model is dead, that the blockbuster model is dead. That's not the case. No. I think what we're seeing is that we need these big tentpoles on big holiday weekends, these big IP movies, and we need to complement them with fresh original filmmaking in the weeks between those big tentpole releases. Because what we saw was Obsession break through the week before Star Wars and Backrooms break out the week after. And that's how we get into these positions where the post-Memorial Day weekend of 26 on the 1 and 2 basis outperforms that same frame coming off a record year in 25. And we only get there with smart programming, meaning that if it's not a tentpole, it still could be a winner. And that's what I think the lesson should be. The lesson shouldn't be Star Wars is dead, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is dead, as much as I'd like them to be. But no, they're very much alive. We still very much need them. And the lesson isn't, let's make Obsession 2 or Backrooms next level by,
let's keep an eye on the emerging talent. Let's be smart in how we program it. Let's be smart in how we market it. And Focus, like you said, they did that Obsession marketing. I want one of those One Wish Willows now, that I would definitely not actually break it because I just don't want to risk it. But yeah, we did. I mean, AMC, we got numbers in from them that they had their highest global May attendance since 2019, which, to remind everyone, is pretty much the entire Avengers Endgame run took place in May. It came out like late April.
Talking about AMC and other exhibitor, I wanted to praise the reactivity of the market, because for the release of Obsession on Tuesday and Wednesday, they just post so many more showtimes. They reacted so fast for the release dates, and that was great to see. Because the market...
Kudos to them for leaning in. They added showtimes at like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. on some of the top
people in there. I mean, AMC having their best May since 2019. Cinemark had their best May ever. Wonderful. Which obviously, I mean, that's not just down to one film, whether it's gigantic IP like Star Wars or whether it's a breakout like Backrooms or Obsession. All of the pieces have to come together. I think that the test is going to be when we get into, I guess, August, September. I mean, those are more difficult months.
August will be fine. Spider-Man is going to get you through August. August will be fine. But you're right, Rebecca. As soon as Spider-Man slows down, what happens? Who's going to cover for September? Who's going to cover for October? Is Thanksgiving as strong as we would like it to be? Those are the bigger questions coming up at the end of the year. But I will say, with the figures that we've had here, our forecasting has increased for 2026 box office significantly. Right now, we are projecting a $10 billion plus 2026. And that's not only because of 1 or 2 movies. You just mentioned it, Rebecca. It's about the way not only a diversity of films are opening, but the way they're holding on into the marketplace. If you look at the way that Project Hail Mary held on, you look at the way that a movie like Michael kept on performing week after week after week, and you compare that with, of course, the standard IPs like the Star Wars, Mandalorian, Grogu thing, sure, maybe not the levels we'd want it to be, but still an $80 million weekend that is very much welcome. You added to the mix Backrooms, Obsession. We're getting the sort of movies that perform well on opening weekend and hold on subsequent weeks. And that's what's getting us to that 10 billion plus benchmark in 2026. The first time we crossed that benchmark in the post-pandemic period.
Movie going begets movie going, as they say.
That's exactly the way that I like to look at it as well. Now, let's look forward into the forecasting for this coming weekend, because it's going to be another great frame with another bit of diverse titles coming into the marketplace. Let's start off with the movie we're projecting to finish in first place, Scary Movie 2026 in parentheses. We are currently projecting that to open between $45 and $55 million domestically. Romeo, how does that align with the data you're looking at?
It does align pretty well. And between you and me, I really hope this weekend is not going to be the last 3 or 4, because I'm sweating so much doing my forecast. This market is so dynamic. But what I see right now is probably maybe back to normal. I could be a little bit more bullish on Scary Movie 6 right now. I'm just 20% less than Backrooms in terms of pre-sales. I'm not saying we're going to do 20% less than Backroom, but I think 60 and maybe north than 60 could happen.
Wow, so the ceiling here is around 60 million. That's a pretty good ceiling for a title like this.
I mean, R-rated comedies of late have not been having the best time of it box office wise. I mean, I'm really curious about how Scary Movie is going to do, given the great momentum that we have coming off of horror, specifically targeted at Gen Z, and then transitioning to a more, let's say, millennial-friendly, millennial-focused. I mean, I don't think Gen Z doesn't have any nostalgia for the Scary Movie franchise. They weren't really born for most of it.
Right.
But they are, and yet the franchise is, now taking on, quote-unquote, elevated horror, these newer movies that there is a connection to amongst younger horror audiences.
It's a good point, Rebecca, because I do have a softer indicator if I compare it with Mortal Kombat 2, which is there could be a similar audience in terms of nostalgia. And right now, only above 20-25% Mortal Kombat 2 pre-sales. And Mortal Kombat 2, I think a month ago, did $38 million opening weekend. So your range, which is between 50 and 60, definitely makes sense.
This is interesting. We're very curious to see how it plays out. Right now, we have an official forecast around the $50 million mark to lead the weekend here in this coming frame. In second place, it's going to be a tight race here, because we are expecting Backrooms to fall significantly in week 2. We're currently expecting a sophomore frame between $30 and $35 million for Backrooms. Meanwhile, Masters of the Universe, we started the week thinking this was going to be a $25 million opening weekend. At this point, we're thinking it's going to end up somewhere in the 30s. We have a $30 to $40 million range for Masters of the Universe. So $35 million being our plus minus benchmark. Romeo, how does that $35 million figure add up to what you're saying?
This one clearly we're going around $35 million in terms of pre-sales. We're, let's say, 25% less than Mortal Kombat 2. So that totally makes sense. I'll say 35 if we're...
Yeah, I feel like word of mouth is going to be huge here and bringing against those people who maybe... I mean, you have the hardcore Masters of the Universe fans who have that strong association with it from childhood, who are going to see it opening weekend regardless. And then I just got a text earlier this afternoon from Eric, who's showed no interest in the Master of the Universe franchise, sharing a clip that just hit social media of Jared Leto's Skeletor, doing an evil laugh sort of thing. And he was like, this looks so ridiculously goofy, which is positive. That's a positive.
Yeah. That's where they have to lean into.
Yeah, and I mean, it's by Travis Knight, who did Bumblebee, which is, I think, the best of the Transformers films. It's not a high bar, but it's a bar and it clears it. And what we're going to be looking at also is not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after June 12th, we have Steven Spielberg with Disclosure Day pretty much having the weekend to himself in terms of new releases. I wonder how
Yeah.
that's going to impact
It's going to be dynamic. It's
holdovers.
going to be really competitive. And then after that, we've got Toy Story 5, which is
Yeah,
going to blow
when
everything
you
out
get
of
to
the
the
water.
19th, it's Toy Story 5, and
Yeah, no,
there's
it's Toy Story 5 for the rest of the month, right? No, I think it's going to be a fascinating weekend. One of the reasons why I think there's a chance that Backrooms ends up in third place in week 2, which seems alarming, right? If we just look at that opening weekend data, and I said this back when Obsession first opened, the demographics behind the opening weekend of Obsession was that 39% of that crowd was under the age of 25. And I said it at that point on the podcast. You can go back. I said, there's a lot of audience here under the age of 25, the core Gen Z audience that hasn't seen this yet. They're going to discover it. So watch out in the coming weeks. And that's what happened. Backrooms is a lot more front loaded with that Gen Z audience. 66%, 2/3 of the Backrooms opening weekend audience was under the age of 25. So there's not that same discovery element for this movie than existed for Obsession. And moreover, that word of mouth for Backrooms with a B- cinema score, I think also reflects the fact that this is more of a mood movie, a vibe movie. It's not the sort of fun movie that you watch and have to talk about afterwards, right? Like Obsession is. Obsession is
It's the
something you
kind of
want to
movie
share.
where it's insane that it opened to 80 million
It's crazy that it opened, but Backrooms leaves you wanting to think about the movie, and I'm not sure it leaves you wanting to talk about the movie. And I think that's the main difference with Backrooms and Obsession. I think that's why we've had great holds from Obsession, because it's a movie that demands to be discussed, whether you liked it or, like in my case, didn't love it.
It's a great rewatch movie. I want to go back and see it again.
Yeah, exactly. And I just don't think, and there's nothing against Backrooms. Backrooms just isn't going for that vibe. They're going for something else entirely. It's a much more introspective film. And that's why it's nothing against the film itself. $80 million plus is a total overperformance. I think the fact of the matter is it overperformed in week 1 and is probably going to perform more along the lines of what we'd expect in week 2. And frankly, between $30 and $35 million for a sophomore frame, if you told me that a month ago, that was the tracking for Backrooms, I'd say, let's sign it right now. That's a win. Let's go for that. So I wouldn't see it as negative. I just think it's an evolution of the marketplace dynamics and what we're seeing right now at the box office. While we do expect a significant drop-off for Backrooms in week 2, we don't think the box office is going to slow down at all. We have Scary Movie. We've got Masters of the Universe. Let's not forget the amazing Digital Circus, The Last Act. That's tracking between $12 and $15 million on the weekend. That's going to be a great performer. There's a lot of options in the marketplace for moviegoers, and more moviegoers means more concession sales, and that's exactly what we're going to be discussing in today's feature segment. Rebecca, can you tell us about your interview with the folks over at Hormel Food Service?
It's interesting. Obviously, Hormel is a brand that has been around for a long time. They've been in movie theater concession stands, packaged peanuts and corn nuts and that sort of thing. But they're really taking sort of a look at the movie theater concession space from the outside, looking at the trends, looking at the interesting things that are going on, and entering into that both with menu items. And then the thing that I really found interesting about the conversation is they're leaning into like pre-cooked proteins and foods that are designed to be used in different creative ways by cinemas. Or to put another way, foods that are designed or are perfect for LTOs. It's LTO central that you can do with some of these items. And I'm just thinking, if any theater out there is doing any like Scary Movie munchies themed LTOs, anything, email me because I desperately need to know about it. Rebecca at boxoffice.com.
Well, that's a great way to intro the conversation coming up after this commercial break. Without any further ado, our friends from Hormel Food Service.
Now you can bring the magic back to movie theater meals with innovative solutions from Hormel Food Service. Serve globally inspired meats, premium fully cooked bacon, and top your pizzas with trending Calabrian chili flavors, all without the complexity of extra equipment or added labor. Hormel Food Service is continuously innovating revolutionary protein solutions that save you time while helping you deliver the craveable, delicious experiences moviegoers want. Visit HormelFoodService.com to learn how their innovative protein solutions can revolutionize your theater.
I am joined on this week's episode of the Box Office Podcast by Beth Fehrenbacher, Hormel Food Service Innovation Team Lead, and Tim Bortner, Brand Manager at Hormel Foods. Super excited to speak to you guys about some of the interesting products Hormel is introducing into the cinema space. I'm a big fan of concessions, everything snack food, so I'm always happy to talk about that. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great, and we're excited too. We both love food in general, but there's nothing better than some lovely snacks for the movies. So, yeah.
Have to.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
Absolutely. So Hormel, I mean, that's a household name. It's a brand that consumers trust and they know. What's your involvement like in the cinema space?
We entered into the cinema space much like the consumer has, and we're looking to grow with that cinema space. But our snacking brands like Planters and Corn Nuts have been, staples within lots of those snacking spaces, whether that's a C-store or a movie theater. Definitely an opportunity for consumers to enjoy our brands. But as we've witnessed movie theaters specifically looking to expand out into more of those food service or hot food offerings, really creating the consumer experience, we're ready to play there too. And that's actually probably where our portfolio can shine the most from the food service standpoint. We make some really delicious things that I know we'll get into, but we're really here to evolve with this segment of the industry because they're doing what we love to do, which is make food really exciting and enjoyable for the consumer.
As much as I love movie theater popcorn and a nice soda, that space has evolved so much, just even over the last 5 years or so. As people who have been sort of in the cinema space, aware of the cinema space, presumably you go to the movies.
Yeah.
But so kind of looking at it from that expert food perspective, but from outside the industry, what are some of your perceptions, I guess, of the cinema industry concessions and how it's been changing over these past couple of years?
We all get really excited about, the snacks, the classical snacks at the movies. But when we think about how we draw people into an experience like coming to the cinema, eating's an experience too. And so when you can couple a great show with an eating experience like we can deliver with Hormel Foods or just a really delectable dish at a cinema, it adds to the experience. And in an environment like we're in, constrained consumer that's thinking about every dollar they're spending, when you can amplify an experience for someone, that just adds another layer and hopefully will draw more people to the movies.
I've eaten popcorn for dinner at the movie theater many times, but it's not an actual meal. So
I love what the movie industry is doing to really redefine what dinner and a show can look like. And I think that's really at the core of what they're doing and what Tim said about that constrained consumer. It adds to the experiences that consumers are looking for and are willing to pay for, to spend those hard-earned dollars. So we're excited to be a part of that new definition of dinner and a show.
And now LTOs are so huge now as well, limited time offerings, whether it's like a specialty cocktail or a specialty menu item. It sounds like with the items that Hormel is offering to the movie theater space, there's the opportunity to kind of integrate that LTO feeling into it and mix things up a little bit. It's not just a static menu that you're working with and that's it.
Right. You mentioned pizza, and I think that that's a huge space for our portfolio to shine. We just launched a brand new Calabrian sausage and pepperoni out of our portfolio, our Fontanini sausage, and from our Hormel pepperoni portfolio, Calabrian items, which play great into that LTO space, really bring in that experience that consumers are looking for, the spice, as well as that local kind of pepper that is from Calabria in Italy. And I think that's the type of things that we can play in.
I think about the quick service or kind of limited service operation environment that a lot of the cinemas find themselves in. And we recently, in the last 2 years, launched our Flash 180 brand. It's a sous vide cooked chicken tender or chicken breast that will allow operators not to have to deal with raw chicken in the back of house and to cut down their fryer times pretty significantly. So as we've seen this trend of fried chicken get really big, chicken tenders have always been, a staple on the menu, but fried chicken sandwiches allows the operator then to just wet batter right out of the bag, bread or fry in under 3 minutes. And so that's the kinds of innovations that we're always thinking about. And another just plug in this kind of flavors and formats that I'm thinking about is our Cafe H line is full of globally inspired products. And so you think about the pork of the world, the beef barbacoas, the
Mhm.
chicken tingas. They're all boil and bag, very easy on the back of house operation,
Mhm.
incredibly consistent, and you can use them versatilely for nachos, for quesadillas, for tacos, or whatever that experience might look like during dinner and a show.
I know movie theater operators love something with a little bit of that spice kick because that leads right to beverage sales.
Yes,
Yes, exactly right.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You mentioned a little bit about Tim, about the operational difficulties of movie theater concessions. It's something that has maybe been tripping the industry up on a more macro level for a while. That there's the need to be a restaurant and a movie theater, but typically we're only working with the infrastructure of movie theaters. There are really specific needs that movie theaters have that your average restaurant would not, and vice versa. If you're selling something to the restaurant field, what are some of these specific pain points that can emerge on the movie theater concession side when you're looking to do something that's an actual meal and not just popcorn chips?
You just think about the time and expertise that a full service restaurant needs in order to run a typical evening. And so that would look like, a general manager all the way through executive chef teams, sous chef teams. There's
Mhm.
a lot that goes into building that experience for someone who's going out to spend their hard earned money. And so when we take a step back and look at our portfolio and how we can come to life in somewhere and help that, is our proteins are fully cooked. So we're going to
Mhm.
take the cooking step out, and you think about a brand like an Austin Blues.
Mhm.
Our Austin Blues line is fully cooked barbecue products. And so something like brisket. Brisket is hot on menus today. It could show up the same place that bacon could across any menu. And we are slow smoking for 16 hours in
Mm.
real hardwood pits in Texas, this brisket, and then it's coming to you as an operator. All you have to do is warm it up in any mode that you have in your back of house, and you can then serve a true Texas style cooked brisket in
Mhm.
a whole, a sliced, a chopped form. And so that's the types of things that we can help operators solve for is if you're limited on space, if you're limited on time, if you're limited on labor, skilled labor. Skilled labor, that's another thing that we talk a lot about is maybe you have labor, but it's a 16 to 18-year-old kid, right? And that's okay.
Things can get very, very hectic and you want to be able to move quick. I'm from North Carolina, so my eyes went right to the pulled pork. And it's like the thought that you could do low and slow in a movie theater environment is so cool to me because the quality has to be there. If it's not there, then that person might not give you a second shot.
Right, and I think something that Tim was mentioning that can be tricky if you don't have that skilled labor force is consistency, and that's a lot of what our fully cooked proteins have to offer is that's going to be consistent every time, and you're not dependent on the skill set of that individual to bring it to life. And he mentioned some equipment challenges that can be very real, very true for this type of operation, and we've been mindful to design our products to work across multiple pieces of equipment, whether you're stuck with a turbo chef or Mary chef option up to if you've got that flat top and a hood and all of the things that can really work across. He talked about the brisket, he talked about carnitas, right? All of those types of proteins can come to life even if you have a small space or you're limited on equipment or you don't have that skilled labor force.
You're not making anybody have to get certified to handle raw.
Right. That's a huge risk for the operator because, like you said, you don't want to have poor quality experience and you certainly don't want to have a safety issue when you're serving food and when you're trying to upscale that food experience.
We talked about LTOs a little bit. The menu cannot be static anymore. In this day and age, movie theaters are looking for that custom offering, something to get them off of the couch. How can working with some of these Hormel products, like what can you do innovation-wise that helps you bring in more patrons, something that's beyond, all right, we cooked the food, here it is. What are some of the more interesting things that you've seen that would draw more people in?
I mean, I think when we talk about a food experience, you absolutely want the quality to be on point, but the more innovative you can be with that, the better. So, adding high quality proteins to the menu can make a huge impact on whether that individual decides to go to the movies or decides to choose your theater over some of the competitive experiences that are out there. So, Tim was talking a little bit about our pit smoked brisket. You put brisket on your menu, and people's eyes are going to be like, oh, that's interesting. They're
Mhm.
definitely thinking about their food forward, right? They're thinking about the trends. You are able to say something like a Calabrian sausage, and you can absolutely hit that spicy trend. Or adding bacon. We have a great product in our Bacon One, fully cooked bacon line where it tastes exactly like you've cooked it from raw, but it takes only seconds to retherm. And then you get to menu bacon, right? And so I think that those types of flavor cues that the consumer's looking for, that's what's going to draw them into the theater to spend their money there, to eat
Mhm.
their dinner there, versus maybe splitting up those experiences or skipping the candy and snacks altogether because they chose to eat somewhere else. So I think that's the type of thing that our portfolio can continue to offer.
With our proteins and being scratch quality, fully cooked, your imagination is kind of the ceiling with
Mhm.
applications and what you can do with your menu, whether it's LTO or core menu strategy. So, as you kind of talk about versatility, yes, I mean, our Cafe H lines, our Austin Blues lines, you can take and go across breakfast day parts, lunch day parts, snacking day parts with appetizers and things of
Mhm.
that nature. You can go into dips or a full blown dinner entree menu item. And so we haven't even talked about our fire braised meats line that
Mhm.
Hormel has, but that's another one when I think about versatility. We describe our fire braised brand as being a blank canvas for operators. And
Mhm.
so what we're doing with fire braised is we're flame searing for a short amount of time, and then we are sous vide style cooking right in the bag. And so when you as the operator open this product up, it's fully cooked, it's all natural, it's gluten free, and it's something for you to then take and sauce or marinade or do whatever you want to do and take it a step further and kind of we say we'll get you to third base and you can bring it home.
Mhm.
And so when I think about versatility, if you want to serve a grilled chicken sandwich or you want to cut strips of a chicken breast to put over a salad or you want to dice and put it on nachos or tachos or put it in a quesadilla, our fully cooked proteins are the way to go, and I'm a little bit biased sitting here talking about it this way, but you're gonna find the quality you're looking for in a fully cooked protein. You're gonna find the safety that you're looking for in a fully cooked protein, and I can promise that you're going to cut down on time and training and labor when you start to work with these items. So that's what I would speak on with versatility. And, I could give several examples across any of our brands of cooked proteins, but that Fire Braised brand, if you haven't experienced it yet, that's another one I would get a hold of one of our sales reps ASAP.
I'm trying to remember. I know it was a chain called Warehouse Cinemas, and they do a lot of customization. I don't remember the movie. I think it might have been Twisters, and they did a custom cocktail, the theme of which was everything's in this cocktail, basically.
Mhm.
And I remember it had like bacon in it, and that thing just did numbers on social media. I mean, that's the sort of thing that draws people in. You can really get creative with it. Like Masters of the Universe is coming out. You could work with some of these cooked proteins to do like a Saturday morning breakfast cartoon tie-in. I'm thinking
Yeah.
off the top of my head, but
No.
that's what you have to do that nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a ton of sense. You have these operators in the movie space have the opportunity to really think about how their menu can match what's the latest and greatest hit or what's coming over the summer or, what the holiday movie's going to be. There's like endless opportunity. You talked about a cocktail. We just had our culinary team show us a dirty soda that was garnished with bacon, and it
Mhm.
was absolutely delicious. So ways to also incorporate proteins, maybe as a garnish into the
Bacon Bloody
beverage.
Mary for,
Yeah,
like, brunch
yeah,
screenings or
exactly. Yeah, brunch greetings, or everybody loves breakfast any time of day, right? That's another way to maybe innovate on your menu is like go ahead and serve breakfast to that late night crowd or to that movie going crowd. Give that an option because it's just so delicious. Everybody loves it. Why not, right? So there's lots of ways to I can't wait to see what this segment of the business continues to do because I think there's so much room for innovation and excitement here and pairing up those shows with a great menu, getting a bit outrageous with it as well. I think there's no reason not to max out,
get a bit
'cause it's one of those
Instagrammable with it. That's what
Yeah.
people want. They want those social experiences.
Can
They
you
want
believe
to
what my movie
FOMO.
theater's doing? Like, oh my gosh, right? So we talked about like that's a way to bring those patrons in is absolutely how can this dish play against social media as well and depending on what your operation can handle.
The audience is out there thinking like, "Oh, this some of this stuff is resonating with me," or "Wow, I would love to try some of this," or like prove it on the
Yeah.
taste. We're all about standing behind our quality, and so we would love for you to get in contact with us. We have a direct sales force in all of the local markets around the nation, so don't feel like as we're talking about all these fun ideas and getting outrageous with protein that it all has to be on your shoulders. HormelFoodService.com is a wonderful place to go out and find inspiration. It's a great place to go on and you can give us your info and a sales rep. This is not a black hole. This is someone will reach out to you and make sure that you get serviced and cared for. So just wanted to put a plug in for our team because we take a lot of pride in food. We know experiences are built around food. And so we don't want you to feel like you're alone in the journey of, elevating the food game.
Like
in
here's
some ways.
here's our food, serve it. I mean,
Yeah.
all of the Calabrian chili sausage and the brisket and the pulled pork and the bacon, like it all sounds amazing. But you can use them as is, or they are building blocks that you can use to really create some interesting things. And if people want to test the bacon and
Yeah.
see how
Yeah.
well it stacks up, HormelFoodService.com. I'm definitely going to be looking for some of that pulled pork at movie theaters that I could.
Oh, that's amazing. We love to hear that. And Tim mentioned the website. It's a great resource. I'll put one more plug in for it because our culinary team, we do have a team of 4 dedicated chefs that are working with our products all the time. They're throwing out, unique content on and off on the website to inspire folks. So we certainly, like Tim said, we're here to support this industry. We believe in the food service space. We're really here to put those resources behind it, whether that's our direct sales force or the website or the product itself.
And you're
That's
Hormel, so
absolutely
you know
the
what you're
idea.
doing.
Yeah,
I mean,
we like to think so. We like to think so.
well, Beth and Tim, thank you so much. It's been great to speak with you.